A barefoot kid walked into the most advanced tech company in Silicon Valley. "I can solve this," he whispered. The billionaire CEO burst into laughter. Then the boy's fingers touched the keyboard, and everything changed in 5 seconds. The security scanner beeped red when Liam stepped through the glass doors of Quantum Dynamics headquarters. 12 years old, barefoot, wearing jeans 2 sizes too big held up with a frayed rope belt, he clutched a worn USB drive like it contained the secrets of the universe. It did. Behind him, his 7-year-old sister Olivia waited on the sidewalk, too scared to come inside the towering building made entirely of glass and steel. She held Mr. Whiskers, the stuffed rabbit their father had given her 3 days before the accident that took his life, before everything fell apart, before they lost the apartment, the car, everything except each other, and a USB drive their dad had hidden in his old laptop. "Kid, you can't be here." The security guard's hand moved toward his radio. "This is private property. How did you even get past the front gate?" "I walked," Liam said, his voice steadier than his trembling hands. "I need to see Victor Blackwell. I can solve the Epsilon problem." The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Every head in the pristine lobby turned. The Epsilon problem wasn't just famous. It was legendary. A mathematical equation so complex that Quantum Dynamics had offered $50 million to anyone who could solve it. 5 years. Hundreds of the world's smartest mathematicians and programmers. 0 solutions. And here stood a barefoot 12-year-old claiming he could do it. The guard's expression shifted from annoyed to almost pitying. "Kid, listen. I don't know who told you about the Epsilon problem, but nobody told me. My dad worked here, James Cooper. He was a systems technician. He died 8 months ago." Liam's voice cracked on the word died, but he pushed through. "Before he died, he left me something. Said if anything happened to him, I should bring it here. Show it to Mr. Blackwell." The guard's face softened slightly. "I'm sorry about your dad, son. But Mr. Blackwell doesn't meet with—" "Is there a problem, Marcus?" A woman's voice cut through the tension. Sharp, but not unkind. Dr. Emily Watson, Chief Technology Officer of Quantum Dynamics, descended the curved staircase with the confidence of someone who'd earned her position through brilliance rather than politics. At 42, she'd helped build 3 of the most powerful AI systems in the world. But right now, she was looking at Liam with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Dr. Watson, this kid says he can solve the Epsilon problem," Marcus explained, clearly expecting her to dismiss the claim immediately. But Emily didn't laugh. Her eyes locked onto the USB drive in Liam's hand, then moved to his face, studying him with an intensity that made Liam want to look away. "You said your father was James Cooper?" Liam nodded, surprised she knew the name. "James was brilliant," Emily said quietly. "He fixed problems nobody else could see. And he talked about his kids constantly. Said his son was going to change the world someday." She paused. "He didn't mention you were 12. "He didn't know I'd been paying attention," Liam admitted. "Every night, after work, he'd sit at his computer working on something. Said it was important. Said if he could solve it, we'd never have to worry about money again. That I could go to any college I wanted. That Olivia could have everything she deserved." The lobby had gone completely silent. People in expensive suits pretended to look at their phones while clearly listening to every word. "And then he died," Liam continued, his voice getting quieter. "Accident at a construction site. He'd taken a second job because tech support didn't pay enough. Because we needed the money. Because—" His voice broke completely. Emily's expression softened. "Come with me. Let's go somewhere more private." "Dr. Watson, I don't think—" Marcus began. "Marcus, James Cooper was one of the most underestimated people I've ever known. If his son says he has something to show us, I want to see it." Emily looked at Liam. "Is your sister outside?" She was too scared to come in. "Bring her. She shouldn't be alone on the street." 5 minutes later, Liam and Olivia sat in a conference room that looked like something from a science fiction movie. One entire wall was a window overlooking Silicon Valley. The table was made of some material that seemed to glow softly, and in the corner, a coffee machine that probably cost more than their old apartment. Emily returned with 2 juice boxes and a package of cookies. Olivia grabbed them eagerly. They hadn't eaten since yesterday's food bank visit, but Liam couldn't stomach anything. His entire body was vibrating with nervous energy. "Before we go any further," Emily said gently, sitting across from them. I need to know something. Who's taking care of you two? The question Liam had been dreading. We're staying with a friend of Dad's, Liam lied. It's temporary, until the insurance money comes through. Emily's expression suggested she didn't believe him, but she didn't push. Okay, now show me what's on that drive. Liam pulled out the USB drive with shaking hands. It was old, scratched, with L+O written on it in their father's handwriting. Their initials. The last thing their dad had left them besides debt and memories. Emily pulled a laptop from a drawer. Not connected to any networks, Liam noticed. Security protocol. Smart. She plugged in the drive. The screen filled with code. Complex, beautiful, elegant code that made Emily's eyes go wide. James wrote this. Every night for 3 years, Liam confirmed. He said he was close to something big, something that would change everything, but he never finished it. The Epsilon problem, Emily breathed, scrolling through the code. He was trying to solve the Epsilon problem. The door burst open. Victor Blackwell strode in like he owned the building, which he did. At 53, he'd built quantum dynamics into a $100 billion empire through a combination of genius, ruthlessness, and an absolute certainty in his own superiority. Emily, what's this about a kid claiming to solve Epsilon? His eyes landed on Liam and Olivia, and his expression shifted to barely concealed contempt. These are children, in our secure facility. Victor, this is James Cooper's son. I know who James Cooper was, Victor interrupted. A technician who fixed our coffee machines and pretended he understood quantum computing. And now his kid shows up with some flash drive full of amateur code? Liam felt heat rising in his chest. My dad was smarter than half the people working here. He just didn't have the right degrees. Didn't go to the right schools. Exactly, Victor said with a cold smile. In the real world, potential means nothing without credentials. Your father was a nice man who fixed computers. Nothing more. He was more than that, Liam said, his voice shaking with anger now. He saw patterns nobody else could see. He understood systems in ways that... Kid? Victor cut him off, walking to the window with his hands in his pockets. I'm going to give you some free advice. Life isn't fair. Your father died doing manual labor because he wasn't smart enough or educated enough to do anything else. And now you're here, desperate, hoping that maybe your dad left you some secret treasure, but he didn't. Because people like your father don't solve problems like Epsilon. People like me do. The cruelty in those words hit Liam like a physical blow. He saw Olivia's face crumple, saw her clutching Mr. Whiskers tighter. Emily stood abruptly. Victor, that's enough. No, Emily, it's not enough, Victor said, turning to face Liam directly. This child needs to understand reality. I've spent $50 million over 5 years trying to solve Epsilon. The smartest people on the planet have failed. And now a 12-year-old with no education, whose father was a glorified handyman, thinks he can do what they couldn't. He laughed. Not a small chuckle, but a full, mocking laugh that echoed off the conference room walls. Tell you what, Victor said, clearly enjoying himself now. Let's make this fun. I'll give you 5 minutes at my best computer. Show me this solution your daddy left you. When you fail, and you will fail, you leave and never come back. Deal? Liam looked at Olivia, saw the hope dying in her eyes, saw her believing what Victor was saying, that their dad had been nobody, that they had nothing, and something broke inside him. I don't need 5 minutes, Liam said quietly. I need 5 seconds. The room froze. Even Victor stopped mid-laugh. What did you say? I said I need 5 seconds. Liam stood up, walking toward the computer Emily had been using. My dad didn't leave me a solution. He left me the key to seeing the solution. And once you know how to look at it, Epsilon isn't complicated. It's obvious. This I have to see, Victor said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. He gestured grandly toward the computer. Please, child genius, show us how it's done. Liam's fingers touched the keyboard, and the world shifted. Later, Emily would describe what happened next as the most remarkable thing she'd ever witnessed in 30 years of computer science. Victor would never talk about it publicly. But everyone in that room would remember exactly where they were standing when a 12-year-old boy proved that brilliance has nothing to do with age, credentials, or circumstances. Liam's fingers moved across the keyboard faster than most people could follow. But he wasn't typing frantically or randomly. Each keystroke was precise, deliberate, like he was playing a piano piece he'd practiced 10,000 times. 1 second. He opened 3 command windows simultaneously. 2 seconds. He input a series of commands that made Emily gasp in recognition. 3 seconds. He pulled up the epsilon equation itself, the impossible problem that had stumped the world. 4 seconds. He made a single change. 1 line of code, 7 characters. 5 seconds. He hit enter. The screen flickered. Numbers cascaded down in sequences that suddenly, impossibly, made sense. The equation that had been chaos transformed into perfect order. Variables aligned. Solutions emerged. The epsilon problem, unsolvable for 5 years, resolved itself in a waterfall of perfect mathematical harmony. Victor's face went white. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Emily actually stumbled backward, grabbing the table for support. That's impossible. That's correct, Liam said simply. He turned to face Victor. My dad didn't solve it because he was missing one piece, one pattern he couldn't see. But he taught me to look for patterns everywhere. In music, in nature, in the way people walk. And 3 months ago I was watching pigeons in the park, and I saw it. The pattern he was missing. It was in their flight formation. How they adjusted to each other without thinking. He pointed to the screen. Epsilon isn't a math problem. It's a cooperation problem. Everyone was trying to solve it from inside, when you have to solve it from outside. You have to let the system solve itself. The silence in the room was deafening. How did you... Emily started. My dad taught me everything, Liam said, and now tears were flowing freely down his face. Every night, for years. Not just code, but how to think, how to see things differently. He said the smartest person isn't the one with the most knowledge. It's the one who asks the best questions. He looked directly at Victor. You said my dad was nobody, that he was just a technician, but he saw this problem 5 years ago. He worked on it every night after fixing your computers, after being ignored by people like you who thought he wasn't smart enough to matter. Emily walked slowly to the computer, studying the solution with shaking hands. Her face went pale as she scrolled through the results. Victor, the numbers are resolving. The quantum alignment is perfect. This actually... Stop. Victor's voice cut through the room like ice. Everyone froze. Stop what? Emily asked, confused. Victor strode to the computer, his face no longer showing shock. Now it showed something far more dangerous. Calculation. This can't be correct. A child doesn't solve epsilon in 5 seconds. It's impossible. But the solution is right there, Emily protested. The verification algorithms. Could be wrong, Victor interrupted sharply. Could be a fluke. Could be corrupted data from that ancient USB drive. His eyes narrowed. Or it could be a trick. Liam felt ice water flooding his veins. What? Victor turned to face him, and the man who'd briefly looked humbled was gone. In his place was the ruthless CEO who'd built an empire by never admitting weakness. You walk in here with a sob story about your dead father. You claim he was some misunderstood genius, and conveniently you have a solution that just happens to work? Victor, what are you doing? Emily's voice was sharp with warning. My job, Victor shot back. Protecting this company from fraud. Think about it, Emily. A 12-year-old homeless kid solves what MIT's best minds couldn't? A janitor's son cracks quantum computing? It's statistically impossible. It happened, Liam shouted. You saw it. Everyone saw it. I saw a screen display numbers, Victor corrected coldly. But that doesn't mean the solution is real. It doesn't mean it will work in practice. And it certainly doesn't mean I'm handing $50 million to a child based on 5 seconds of typing. Emily stepped between Victor and Liam, her expression hardening. Victor, I've been running verification protocols while you talked. The solution is mathematically sound. The quantum processors are accepting it. This is real. Or you want it to be real, Victor said, his voice dropping dangerously low. Tell me, Emily, how well did you know James Cooper? Emily's face flushed. We were colleagues. He was brilliant and underappreciated, and you know it. I know he had a crush on you, Victor said with cruel precision. I know you felt guilty when he died, and I know you'd love nothing more than to prove I was wrong about him. He gestured toward Liam. So forgive me if I question whether you're being objective about his son's miraculous solution. How dare you? Emily started. Dr. Watson, Victor interrupted, his CEO voice fully activated now. I'm ordering a full review of this solution. Minimum 6 months. Independent verification by external experts. Until then, this child gets nothing. No prize money, no recognition, nothing.
6 months?
Liam's voice cracked.
We don't have 6 months. We don't have 6 days.
Not my problem, Victor said dismissively. He turned to Marcus, who'd been standing frozen by the door. Marcus, escort these children out of the building, and make sure they don't come back without an appointment. Victor, they're homeless, Emily said desperately. They've been sleeping in an abandoned building. You can't just... I can, and I will, Victor cut her off. Emily, you're too emotionally compromised to see clearly. This could be an elaborate scam. Street kids learn to manipulate sympathies. It's how they survive. Liam felt the world tilting. This couldn't be happening. He'd solved it. He'd proven his father was brilliant. He'd done everything right. But Victor was looking at him with the same expression he probably used on failed investments. Cold, distant, already forgotten. Please, Liam whispered. My dad died for this. He worked on it for 3 years. Your dad was a technician who died in a construction accident, Victor said flatly. Tragic, certainly, but that doesn't change reality. You're a child with no credentials, no verification, and a convenient story. I'm not risking my company's reputation on sentiment. Olivia started crying, clutching Mr. Whiskers so tightly the old rabbit's seam started to split. Liam, I'm scared. I want to leave. Emily pulled out her phone. Fine, if you won't help them, I will. I'm calling social services. Don't. Liam's voice was sharp. He grabbed Emily's wrist, eyes desperate. Please don't. They'll separate us. Olivia and me. That's what they do when there's no family. Then what do you want me to do? Emily asked, tears in her eyes. Let us go, Liam said quietly. He was staring at Victor with an expression that was far too old for 12. We'll figure it out, like we always do. Liam, you can't just... Emily tried. We can and we will, Liam interrupted. His voice was steady now, but his hands were shaking. Come on, Olivia. As Marcus moved to escort them out, Emily grabbed Liam's arm one more time. She pressed something into his hand, a business card, and whispered, so only he could hear, My personal number. Call me tonight, please. Liam nodded once, then let Marcus lead them toward the elevator. Victor watched them go, his expression unreadable. When the elevator doors closed, Emily turned on him with fury in her eyes. What is wrong with you? That solution is real, and you know it. Maybe it is, Victor said calmly. Maybe it isn't. But I didn't build a $100 billion company by making impulsive decisions based on emotion. This isn't about emotion, Emily shot back. This is about you being too proud to admit you were wrong. About James. About that solution. About everything. Careful, Emily, Victor warned. You're CTO, not CEO. Remember that. Emily stared at him for a long moment. I've worked for you for 15 years, Victor. I've watched you make brilliant decisions and terrible ones. But this, turning away that child, that might be the worst thing you've ever done. Or the smartest, Victor countered. Give it 6 months. If the solution holds up under scrutiny, we'll find the kid and pay him. Simple. And if he doesn't survive 6 months on the street? Emily asked quietly. Victor's jaw tightened. That's not my responsibility. Emily picked up her tablet, pulling up the Epsilon solution that still glowed on the screen. She saved it to her personal drive, backed it up 3 times, then looked at Victor with an expression he'd never seen before. You know what, Victor? Maybe James was right about you. Maybe you really are exactly what Liam called you. Someone who only sees value in people who look like you, sound like you, and validate your worldview. Emily, I'm not finished. She cut him off. That child solved a problem that could revolutionize our entire industry. And you're throwing him back onto the street because acknowledging his genius would mean admitting you were wrong about his father. That your entire worldview about who deserves opportunities is fundamentally broken. She walked toward the door, then paused. I'm giving you 24 hours to reconsider. If you don't, I'm taking this solution public, with James Cooper's name on it, with Liam's name on it, and with a very detailed explanation of how you refused to help 2 homeless children who solved your company's biggest problem. That would be theft of corporate property, Victor said dangerously. Try me, Emily responded. See who the public believes. The billionaire CEO or the 12-year-old orphan sleeping in abandoned buildings. She left, closing the door with precise control. Victor stood alone in the conference room, the Epsilon solution still displayed on the computer screen. The solution that might be real, that might be worth billions, that might change everything, or might be an elaborate con by a desperate kid. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Security? I want everything about today's incident logged and sealed. Nobody discusses it. Nobody shares it. And I want 24/7 surveillance on an abandoned building 3 blocks east. 2 children, 12 and 7 years old. I want to know where they go, what they do, who they talk to. He paused. And call my lawyers. I need to know my exact legal position if a minor presents a solution to a corporate challenge and we refuse to honor it. Victor hung up and stared at the screen for a long time. On the street below, Liam and Olivia walked away from Quantum Dynamics headquarters. Away from the warmth, the safety, the future that had been dangled in front of them for exactly 10 minutes before being snatched away. Olivia was crying. Liam was silent, his face set in an expression that was far too hard for a child. In his pocket, he could feel Emily's business card. A lifeline. Maybe. But he'd learned a long time ago not to trust lifelines thrown by people who worked for men like Victor Blackwell. Where are we going? Olivia asked through her tears. Back to the building, Liam said quietly. For tonight. And tomorrow? Liam didn't answer. Because he didn't know. All he knew was that he'd proven his father was brilliant, had solved an impossible problem, had done everything right, and it hadn't mattered. Because in a world run by men like Victor Blackwell, being right wasn't enough. You had to be believed. And 12-year-old homeless kids, no matter how brilliant, were never believed. Emily didn't sleep that night. She sat in her home office, the Epsilon solution glowing on 3 monitors, running verification after verification. Every test came back the same. Perfect. Flawless. Revolutionary. A 12-year-old homeless kid had done it. And Victor was throwing him back onto the street. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Dr. Watson, it's Liam. Emily sat up straight. Where are you? Are you safe? We're okay, for now. His voice was quiet, carefully controlled. I need to ask you something. The solution I showed you, was it real? Liam, it's the most elegant piece of quantum computing I've seen in 20 years. It's absolutely real. Silence. Then, why doesn't he believe me? Emily closed her eyes. How do you explain to a child that the world runs on power, not truth? Because admitting you're right means admitting he was wrong. About everything. About your father. About who deserves opportunities. About the entire system he's built his empire on. So what do I do? Let me handle Victor. I'm going public tomorrow if he doesn't... No. Liam's voice was firm. If you do that, you'll lose your job. And then you can't help anyone. Liam, I don't care about my job if it means I care, he interrupted. Because you're the only person in that building who saw my dad as human, who sees me as human, and I need you there. Emily felt tears burning. Then what's your plan? I'm going to prove it's not a trick. I'm going to solve something else. Something public. Something Victor can't ignore. Liam, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because if I don't, every other kid like me stays invisible. Every other dad like mine dies being nobody. His voice cracked. I have to make this matter. After he hung up, Emily stared at her phone for a long time. Then she made a decision that would either save her career or destroy it. She called a reporter. The next morning, Victor arrived at Quantum Dynamics to find protesters outside. Not many, maybe 20 people, but they carried signs that made his stomach clench. Quantum Dynamics refuses to pay 12-year-old genius. Billionaire steals from homeless kids. James Cooper deserved better. What the hell is this? Victor demanded as Emily met him in the lobby. You said you wanted 6 months, Emily said calmly. The internet works faster. Victor's face went red. You leaked this? I made one phone call to a tech journalist I trust. She verified the solution independently. She ran it by 3 quantum computing experts. All 3 confirmed it's legitimate. Emily held up her tablet. The story goes live in 2 hours, unless you do the right thing. You're fired, Victor said flatly. Fire me, Emily challenged. Fire the CTO who's been your right hand for 15 years. Watch how that looks in the press. Watch your stock price tomorrow. They stared at each other across the lobby. The protesters outside were starting to chant. Victor's phone rang, his head of PR, then his board chairman, then his lawyer, all saying the same thing. This was a PR disaster waiting to happen. "Where's the kid?" Victor asked through clenched teeth. "I don't know," Emily admitted. "He called me last night. Wouldn't tell me where he was staying." What she didn't say, Liam had made her promise not to try to find him. 3 blocks away, Liam sat in the public library, the only place with free computers. Olivia was in the children's section, reading picture books, carefully not touching anything with her dirty hands. Liam had a plan, a desperate, probably stupid plan. He pulled up the website for TechCrunch, the biggest technology news site in the world. They were hosting a live coding challenge today, a problem that thousands of professional programmers would attempt simultaneously, broadcast live. First prize, $25,000. More important, global visibility. Liam's fingers hovered over the keyboard. If he entered this contest and failed, it would prove Victor right. That he was a fraud, a lucky kid who'd gotten one thing right by accident. But if he succeeded, he clicked register. By noon, Victor's office was under siege. The board was demanding answers. PR was spinning damage control. Legal was calculating liability. And the protesters had grown to 50 people. "This is ridiculous," Victor snapped at Emily. "One tech blogger writes one article, and suddenly I'm the villain." "You are the villain," Emily said quietly. "You took a homeless child who solved your impossible problem and threw him back onto the street. What did you think would happen?" "I'm protecting my company from fraud. You're protecting your ego from admitting you were wrong." Victor's phone buzzed. His assistant. "Sir, you need to see this. It's trending on every platform." The video was grainy, shot on someone's phone outside Quantum Dynamics yesterday. It showed Liam and Olivia being escorted out by security. Showed Olivia crying. Showed Liam's face, exhausted, devastated, but trying to be brave. The caption? 12-year-old genius rejected by billionaire CEO after solving $50 problem. Views, 3 million and climbing. Comments, thousands, almost all furious. "Find him," Victor said suddenly. "Find the kid. Now." "Why?" Emily asked suspiciously. "Because," Victor stopped, struggling with something. "Because I need to verify the solution properly, under controlled conditions." "You mean you need to control the narrative before this destroys you?" Victor's jaw tightened. "Does the reason matter if the result is helping him?" "Yes," Emily said. "It matters to me, and it should matter to you." Before Victor could respond, someone shouted from the hallway, "Turn on TechCrunch, the live challenge." Emily pulled it up on the conference room screen. Thousands of coders worldwide, attempting a complex algorithm problem. The leaderboard showed professionals from Google, Microsoft, Stanford. And there, registering under the username James Cooper Son, Liam. "Oh no," Emily whispered. "What are you doing?" Liam's cursor appeared on screen, visible to anyone watching. His solution started forming, line by line. It was beautiful, elegant, fast. In the library, Liam blocked out everything else. The whispers from people who recognized him from the viral video. The security guard watching him suspiciously. Olivia's scared face. He focused on the code, on his father's voice in his memory, teaching him to see patterns. 5 minutes. Professional coders were still setting up their frameworks. 10 minutes. Liam was halfway done. 15 minutes. The chat exploded with people recognizing his username. "Is that the kid from the quantum video? No way he's actually competing. He's going to embarrass himself." 20 minutes. Liam hit enter. The system processed his solution. Verified. Correct. Time. 20 minutes 47 seconds. First place. By 17 minutes. The TechCrunch studio went silent. Then chaos. In Victor's office, everyone stared at the screen in shock. Emily couldn't finish the sentence. "Crushed MIT's best programmer," Victor completed, his voice hollow. "In front of the entire world." His phone exploded with notifications. Press, investors, board members, everyone asking the same question. Why did Quantum Dynamics reject this kid? Victor looked at the screen, at Liam's username, a memorial to his father, and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Shame. Real, bone-deep shame. Emily, he said quietly. Find him. Please. Not for PR, for... He stopped. Because you were right. About everything. Emily studied his face. Saw something different there. Not the arrogant CEO. Something more human. I'll try, she said. But Victor, when we find him, you're going to apologize. Really apologize. Not a corporate statement. Not damage control. You're going to look that child in the eye and admit you were wrong. Victor nodded slowly. And then? Then we make sure James Cooper's name goes on Epsilon. We make sure Liam and Olivia are safe, and we start fixing everything we've broken. At the library, Liam closed the laptop with shaking hands. He'd done it. Proven himself again. This time, publicly, undeniably. But he felt no triumph. Only exhaustion. Liam? Olivia's small voice. Did you win? Yeah, Butterfly. I won. Does that mean we get to eat tonight? The question broke him. $25,000 was coming, but it would take days to process. Days they didn't have. Come on, Liam said, taking his sister's hand. Let's go back. Back to the abandoned building. Back to the cold. Back to being invisible. But this time, the whole world was watching. And somewhere, Victor Blackwell was beginning to understand what it cost to be right when everyone decided you were too small to matter. The video of Liam winning the TechCrunch challenge hit 10 million views by morning, but Emily couldn't find him. She'd tried the library, closed for the day, the abandoned building Marcus mentioned, empty, though signs of recent occupancy were everywhere. A makeshift bed of cardboard, Olivia's drawings on the wall, a photo of James Cooper, carefully preserved in a plastic bag. Emily stood in that cold, dark space and finally understood what Liam had been living with. Not just homelessness, not just grief, but the weight of keeping his sister alive while the world ignored them both. Her phone rang. Victor. The board is threatening to remove me, he said without preamble. Stock dropped 6%. 3 major clients are reconsidering contracts, and every news outlet in the country wants a statement. Good, Emily said coldly. Emily, I need... Victor stopped. Started again. I was wrong. About James. About Liam. About everything. Please help me fix this. Why should I believe you? Because I spent last night reading James Cooper's personnel file. Every evaluation. Every complaint he filed about being passed over for promotions. Every brilliant idea he submitted that was ignored. Victor's voice cracked. He tried to tell us. For years. And we didn't listen. Emily closed her eyes. What changed your mind? A video. Someone found footage from the construction site, the day James died. Emily's blood went cold. What footage? He was working a double shift. Hadn't slept in 36 hours because he'd been up coding all night. The foreman told him to go home. James refused. Said he needed the money for his kids' school supplies. Victor's voice dropped to a whisper. He fell because he was exhausted. Because we didn't pay him enough to survive on one job. The words hung between them like an accusation. Does Liam know? Emily asked. I don't think so. The footage was sealed in the safety investigation. But Emily, we killed him. Maybe not directly, but we created the system that made a brilliant man work himself to death. For the first time since she'd known Victor Blackwell, Emily heard genuine remorse in his voice. Find them, Victor said. Whatever it takes. I don't care about PR. I don't care about the stock price. I need to look that child in the eye and admit what we did to his father. After hanging up, Emily stood in the abandoned building, trying to think like a 12-year-old protecting his sister. Where would Liam go with the whole world watching? Then she saw it. A library card expired, with an address written on the back in James's handwriting. An old apartment building in East San Jose, the last place they'd lived before the eviction. Emily drove there immediately. The building was run down, but not abandoned. She found the former landlord, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a tired face. James Cooper? Sweet man. Terrible what happened. She shook her head. Paid rent late sometimes, but always paid. And those kids were so quiet, so polite. Do you know where they might have gone? The woman hesitated. There's a place James used to take his son. A park near the old tech campus where he worked before Quantum. Said it's where he taught the boy to code. Bench under a big oak tree. Emily found them there an hour later. Liam sat on the bench with a borrowed laptop, Olivia asleep beside him with her head on his shoulder. He was coding something, fingers moving with the same precise speed she'd witnessed in the conference room. Liam. He looked up, and Emily saw how exhausted he was. Dark circles under his eyes, cheekbones too prominent. A child who'd been surviving, not living. Dr. Watson, did he send you? Victor wants to talk, really talk. He found footage from the construction site. Liam's fingers stopped moving. What footage? Emily sat down carefully, giving him space. Video from the day your father died. Liam, he was working a double shift. The foreman tried to send him home because he'd been awake too long. James refused. Said he needed the money for school supplies. Liam's face went very still. He died because of us. Because we needed pencils and notebooks. No, Emily said firmly. He died because a system that should have valued his brilliance treated him as disposable. Because companies like ours paid him poverty wages while making billions. Because society decided his worth based on his job title instead of his mind. That doesn't bring him back, Liam whispered. No, it doesn't. But it means his death wasn't your fault. Or his fault. It was ours. Tears started falling down Liam's face. He'd been holding everything together for so long. For Olivia. For his father's memory. For the fight to prove their worth. That this moment of someone else taking responsibility broke something inside him. I'm so tired, he admitted, his voice breaking. I'm 12. I'm supposed to be worried about homework and video games. Instead, I'm worried about where we'll sleep and whether Olivia will have breakfast. Emily pulled him into a hug, and Liam sobbed against her shoulder while his sister slept on, too exhausted to wake. Come with me, Emily said when his crying slowed. Not to Victor yet. To my house. Let me feed you. Let Olivia sleep in a real bed. Then we'll figure out the rest. He'll just reject us again, Liam said, pulling away. Maybe. But this time the whole world is watching. And Victor knows he can't hide from what he did to your father anymore. 3 hours later, Liam and Olivia sat in Emily's kitchen eating real food for the first time in days. Olivia had showered and was wearing Emily's old college sweatshirt, swimming in fabric but warm and clean. Emily's phone buzzed constantly. Messages from Victor, from reporters, from strangers offering help. There's something you should see, Emily said, pulling up her laptop. The tech community responded to your TechCrunch win. She showed him. A GoFundMe started by someone named A Quantum Girl 17. Support James Cooper's kids. Goal, $50,000. Current amount, $847,000 and climbing. Liam stared at the number. That's not real. It's very real. 3,000 people donated in 6 hours. Engineers from Google, high school students, people your father helped over the years who only now learned what happened to him. Emily scrolled through the comments. Story after story of people James had helped. Co-workers whose computers he'd fixed while teaching them programming basics. Students he'd tutored for free at the library. Other technicians he'd mentored. Your father touched more lives than you knew, Emily said softly. He was invisible to people like Victor, but to the people who actually saw him, he was extraordinary. Liam read the messages through blurring eyes. His father had mattered, had been seen, had been loved by so many people the system had taught him were irrelevant. Emily's phone rang. Victor, again. Answer it, Liam said suddenly. Put it on speaker. Emily did. Emily, Victor stopped when he heard the background noise. Are they with you? Yes. May I speak to Liam? Emily looked at Liam, who nodded. I'm here, Mr. Blackwell. Victor was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different from the man in the conference room. Smaller. Human. Liam, I owe you an apology that words can't cover. I treated you with cruelty. I dishonored your father's memory. I let my arrogance blind me to brilliance standing right in front of me. You did, Liam agreed quietly. I watched the TechCrunch challenge. Watched you solve in 20 minutes what MIT's best took 37 minutes to complete. And I realized something. You weren't trying to prove you're smart. You were trying to prove your father wasn't invisible. Liam's throat tightened. But here's what I learned too late, Victor continued. Your father was never invisible. Only to people like me who chose not to see. To everyone else. The people he helped, the lives he touched, the students he mentored. James Cooper was extraordinary. Then why didn't you see it? Liam asked, voice breaking. Why did he have to die, proving his worth to people who decided he had none? The question hung in the air like an indictment. Because I built my success on believing I was better than people like your father, Victor admitted. Because acknowledging his brilliance meant questioning the entire system I benefited from. Because it's easier to dismiss people than to confront your own prejudices. Victor took a shaky breath. But Liam, I can't undo the past. I can't bring your father back. What I can do is make sure no other James Cooper dies unrecognized. No other brilliant child sleeps in abandoned buildings while the world ignores them. How? Liam asked. The Epsilon solution is worth billions. With your permission, I want to put every dollar of profit into a foundation. The James Cooper Foundation. Not just scholarships. Living wages for support staff. Free coding education. Healthcare for workers. Everything your father should have had. That's a lot of money to give away, Emily said carefully. It's a lot of money I made on the backs of people I undervalued, Victor corrected. This is restitution, not charity. Liam looked at Olivia, who'd been listening silently. She nodded, clutching Mr. Whiskers. I have conditions, Liam said. Name them. First, full transparency. Every dollar tracked publicly. No corporate tax dodges. Agreed. Second, the foundation is run by people like my dad, technicians, janitors, support staff, not just executives. Agreed. Third, you personally apologize. Not in a press release, in person. To every support staff member at Quantum who you've dismissed or undervalued. Victor was quiet for a long moment. That will take months. Then you have months of apologies to make, Liam said without sympathy. Agreed. Anything else? Liam thought about his father. About the years of working overnight, coding brilliant solutions nobody saw. About dying exhausted, believing maybe the world was right about his worth. I want the construction footage made public, not to shame you, but so people understand what it costs when society decides certain lives don't matter. Liam, that footage is painful. It shows your father's final— I know what it shows, Liam interrupted. I need to see it. And the world needs to understand what their system does to people like my dad. Victor's sigh was heavy with resignation and respect. If that's what you want. But Liam, are you sure? You can't unsee it. I've been seeing it every night in my nightmares, Liam said quietly. At least this way it means something. Then it's done. All of it. Victor paused. Will you come to Quantum tomorrow? Let me apologize properly. Let me show you what we're building in your father's name. Liam looked at Emily, who nodded encouragingly. Tomorrow, Liam agreed. But Mr. Blackwell, if this is just PR, if you're using my father's death to save your reputation, I will make sure everyone knows. I believe you, Victor said. And Liam, for what it's worth, your father would be so proud of you. Not because you're brilliant, but because you're fighting to make sure no other kid has to be as strong as you've had to be. After hanging up, Liam sat in Emily's kitchen, processing everything. The GoFundMe, the foundation, the apology. Do you believe him? Olivia asked quietly. I don't know, Liam admitted. But I believe Emily. She thinks he's genuine. Emily squeezed his shoulder. Tomorrow we find out. But tonight, you both sleep. In real beds. With full stomachs. Deal? Deal, Liam agreed. But later, lying in Emily's guest room with Olivia already asleep beside him, Liam pulled out his father's USB drive. On it was a file he'd never opened. A video message, dated the day before the accident. His finger hovered over the play button. Then he pressed it. His father's face filled the small screen, tired but smiling, alive. Hey buddy, if you're watching this, something happened to me, and I need you to know something important. Liam's vision blurred with tears. You're going to want to blame yourself. Don't. You and Olivia are the best things I ever did. Everything else, the coding, the problems I solved, the recognition I never got, none of that matters compared to you two. James Cooper leaned closer to the camera. The world is going to tell you that people like us don't matter. That we're not smart enough, not educated enough, not valuable enough. Don't believe them. You matter because you exist. Your worth isn't determined by who sees you. It's determined by who you help when no one's watching. The video ended with James blowing a kiss to the camera. Liam played it 3 more times before finally closing the laptop. "I'm trying, Dad," he whispered into the darkness. "I'm trying to make it matter." Somewhere in Silicon Valley, Victor Blackwell sat alone in his office, staring at the construction footage he'd promised to release, watching a good man fall because he was too tired to stand. And for the first time in his life, Victor Blackwell cried for someone other than himself. The morning Liam and Olivia returned to Quantum Dynamics, a crowd of 200 people waited outside. Not protesters this time, supporters. People held signs that read, "We see you, Liam," and "James Cooper, invisible no more." News vans lined the street. Cameras captured every moment as Emily's car pulled up to the entrance. "There are so many people," Olivia whispered, clutching Mr. Whiskers. "They're here for Dad," Liam said quietly, "and for every other person like him." Inside, Quantum Dynamics had transformed. Where cold corporate efficiency had reigned, now warmth had crept in. Photos lined the walls, not of executives and awards, but of the support staff. Technicians, janitors, security guards. Each photo bore a name and a quote about their dreams, their talents, their stories. Marcus, the security guard who'd stopped Liam that first day, stood by the elevator. His photo hung above him. Marcus Williams, security professional and published poet. "Mr. Cooper," Marcus said formally. Then his professional mask cracked. "I'm sorry. I should have listened to you that first day." "You were doing your job," Liam said. "No," Marcus corrected. "I was doing what I was trained to do. Assume people who look a certain way don't belong. Mr. Blackwell has asked all of us to examine those assumptions." The elevator rose to the executive floor. With each passing level, Liam's heart pounded harder. This was it. The moment that would determine whether Victor's remorse was real or performance. The conference room was packed. Every executive, every board member, and in the front row, 40 support staff members who'd been invited to witness what Victor had promised. Accountability. Victor stood at the head of the table. He looked different, smaller somehow despite his tailored suit, like a man who'd been carrying weight he'd finally acknowledged. "Liam, Olivia, thank you for coming." Victor gestured to seats that had been set up specifically for them. Child-sized chairs, not an afterthought, but a deliberate inclusion. "Before we discuss anything else, I need to say something publicly." He turned to face the room, and Liam could see his hands trembling slightly. 8 months ago, James Cooper died in a construction accident. The official report called it operator error. A man who fell because he wasn't paying attention. Victor's voice cracked. That report was a lie. Murmurs rippled through the room. "The truth is that James Cooper worked for Quantum Dynamics as a systems technician for 6 years. During that time, he submitted 14 innovative solutions to technical problems. All 14 were implemented. None were credited to him. He was paid minimum wage while the ideas he generated saved this company millions." Victor pulled up a screen. Video footage, grainy but clear. "This is from the construction site. The day James died." Liam's breath stopped. Emily reached for his hand. The video showed James, exhausted, being approached by a foreman. Even without sound, the body language was clear. The foreman telling him to go home. James shaking his head, pointing to his watch, making the universal gesture for, "I need the money." The foreman walking away, frustrated but not forcing the issue. James returning to work, swaying slightly from exhaustion. Then the fall. Liam forced himself to keep watching, to see his father's final moments, to understand the cost of a system that valued profit over people. The video stopped before impact. Victor had that much mercy. "James Cooper didn't die because he was careless," Victor said, his voice thick with emotion. "He died because I didn't pay him enough to survive on one job. He died because this company, like so many others, decided that the people who keep our buildings running, our systems working, our operations functional, those people were worth the minimum the law required and not a dollar more." He turned to Liam. "I owe you an apology that spans far beyond today, but I'm going to try anyway. I'm sorry I didn't see your father's brilliance. I'm sorry I created a system where a man as intelligent as James Cooper had to work himself to death. And I'm sorry I tried to do the same thing to you, dismiss your genius because it didn't come in the package I expected." Victor's voice broke completely. "Your father was a better man than I will ever be. And you have more integrity at 12 than I've shown in 53 years. The room was silent except for the sound of people crying. Liam stood slowly, walked to where Victor stood. The man who'd mocked his father, rejected his solution, sent him back to the streets, and extended his hand. "Thank you," Liam said simply, for finally seeing him. Victor shook his hand, tears streaming down his face. "I promise you, Liam, I will spend the rest of my life making sure no other James Cooper dies invisible." The applause started softly, then built. Not celebration, something more profound. Acknowledgement, witness, change. Emily approached with a folder. "If you're ready, we'd like to present the foundation plan." For the next hour, Liam listened to something he'd never imagined. A corporation restructuring itself around human dignity rather than profit margins. The James Cooper Foundation would be funded by 100% of profits from the Epsilon solution, estimated at $5 billion over 10 years. But more than that, Quantum Dynamics itself was transforming. Every support staff member is receiving a 50% salary increase effective immediately, Dr. Sarah Chen, the new head of equity, announced. "We've also established a technical education program. Any employee who wants to develop new skills will receive free training, mentorship, and guaranteed consideration for advancement." A woman in a janitorial uniform raised her hand, tears on her face. "I have an associate's degree in computer science from my country, but here, nobody would recognize it." "Are you saying?" "We're saying we'll help you get certified here," Emily confirmed. "And while you do, you'll keep your full salary plus benefits, because your knowledge has value, whether or not it's been formally recognized by this system." The woman broke down, sobbing. Others joined her. Liam watched, overwhelmed. This was bigger than him, bigger than his father. This was about every person who'd been told they didn't matter. "Liam," Victor said quietly, "there's someone who wants to meet you." A woman in her 70s approached, using a cane but moving with purpose. "Mr. Cooper, I'm Margaret Sullivan. I worked with your father 15 years ago at TechStart Solutions, before Quantum." "You knew my dad?" "I was his supervisor. I tried to get him promoted 3 times. Each time upper management rejected it, said he didn't have the right educational background." Her voice turned bitter. "They were idiots. James could code circles around our senior developers." She pulled out an old photograph. James, much younger, smiling broadly while holding a Employee of the Month plaque. "He was so proud when he won this," Margaret said. "Talked about how he'd show it to his son someday. Tell you that hard work and intelligence matter more than pedigree." Liam took the photo with shaking hands. His father, younger than Liam had ever known him, full of hope. "What happened?" Liam asked. "Why did he leave?" "They offered him a promotion to junior developer. Minimum salary, no benefits, probationary period, with no job security. It would have meant taking a pay cut from his technician position." Margaret shook her head. "He had a pregnant wife. He couldn't risk it. So he chose us over his career. He chose survival over recognition," Margaret corrected gently. "That's not the same thing. He shouldn't have had to choose at all." Victor had been listening. "Miss Sullivan, would you be willing to serve on the Foundation's advisory board? Help us make sure we don't repeat these mistakes." "Only if you also include people currently working minimum wage jobs," Margaret said firmly. "The people living the reality, not just remembering it." "Agreed." Throughout the afternoon, more stories emerged. A security guard who'd taught himself network administration through YouTube videos. A cafeteria worker with a master's degree in chemistry from Venezuela. A janitor who'd been coding mobile apps at night for 5 years, with 3 published in app stores under an anonymous name. Quantum Dynamics hadn't just been ignoring talent. They'd been surrounded by it, drowning in it, and had chosen blindness. As the meetings concluded, Emily pulled Liam aside. "There's one more thing. The GoFundMe has reached $2 million. The tech community is calling it the largest grassroots support campaign in Silicon Valley history." $2 million? Liam couldn't process the number. "People want to help. They see your father's story and recognize their own parents, their own struggles. You've become a symbol, Liam, of everyone who's been underestimated." "I don't want to be a symbol," Liam said quietly. "I just want to make sure no other kid watches their parent work themselves to death." "Then that's what we'll do," Emily said. "Together." That evening, Quantum Dynamics held a press conference. Not in some corporate hall, but in the building's cafeteria, the space where support staff took their breaks, surrounded by the people James Cooper had known and worked alongside. Liam sat at a table with Olivia, Emily, and Victor. Behind them, 40 support staff members who'd agreed to share their stories. Victor spoke first. Today, Quantum Dynamics begins a transformation. Not because it's good PR, not because it's profitable, but because it's right. He detailed the salary increases, the education programs, the foundation. Reporters scribbled frantically. But more important than any policy change is a shift in how we see value. James Cooper was brilliant, but we didn't see it because we'd been trained to look for intelligence in certain packages. Degrees from specific schools, people from certain backgrounds, resumes that matched our preconceptions. Victor's voice strengthened. We failed James Cooper, but we will not fail the thousands of people like him who work in buildings across this country, invisible to those they serve. Then it was Liam's turn. He stood, suddenly conscious of every camera, every eye. Olivia squeezed his hand before letting go. My dad used to tell me that the world is full of invisible people, Liam began. People who clean offices at night, who fix systems during lunch breaks, who keep everything running while rarely being seen. He pulled out the photograph Margaret had given him, held it up. This is my dad at 25. He'd just won Employee of the Month. He was proud. He believed hard work would be recognized, that talent would rise. Liam's voice cracked. Instead, he spent the next 16 years being invisible, being told his ideas belonged to someone else, being paid the minimum while his brilliance generated millions. He died because exhaustion is what happens when you work 2 jobs to buy your kids school supplies. Because our system has decided that some people's labor is worth everything, and some people's labor is worth as little as employers can legally pay. The room was silent. The Epsilon solution my dad worked on. It's going to change technology. It's going to make people rich. But my dad will never see it. He died believing he'd failed. That maybe all those people who said he wasn't good enough were right. Tears flowed freely down Liam's face now. So this foundation, this money, these changes, they're not charity, they're debt. Society's debt to every person it decided was invisible. Every janitor who's a scientist in their home country. Every technician who codes genius solutions at night. Every worker who's brilliant but never believed. He looked directly into the cameras. My dad mattered. And so does every person working minimum wage right now while having maximum talent. If this story makes you uncomfortable, good. It should. Because we've all participated in a system that values people based on their job title instead of their humanity. And it's time to change that. Not someday. Now. The applause was thunderous, but Liam barely heard it. He was looking at Victor, who was crying openly. At Emily, who looked at him with something like awe. At the support staff members who were standing, hands over hearts, witnessing their own dignity being acknowledged for the first time. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed, a young woman approached Liam, mid-20s, wearing a cafeteria uniform. Mr. Cooper, I'm Diana Martinez. I worked with your father. He helped me. How? I was pregnant, scared, didn't know how I'd manage school and a baby and work. Your dad found out, I don't know how, and he started leaving coding textbooks in the break room, with notes inside explaining concepts, teaching me without making me feel ashamed that I didn't know. Diana's voice broke. When my daughter was born, he left a gift in my locker, a children's book about a girl who becomes a programmer, and a note that said, for when she's ready to learn. Never let anyone tell her she can't. She pulled out that book. Worn. Well-loved. My daughter is 3 now. I read this to her every night. Because of your dad, I've been teaching myself to code. I've almost finished an online certificate program. He would be so proud, Liam whispered. I named my daughter Jamie, Diana said. After your father, James. Jamie. She'll grow up knowing that a kind man once saw potential in her mother when nobody else did. As more people shared stories, dozens of them, a parade of invisible people James Cooper had helped, mentored, encouraged, Liam began to understand something profound. His father hadn't died invisible. He'd been seen by the people who mattered, not executives, not the powerful, but by the people he'd helped, the lives he'd touched, the future he'd shaped one kind gesture at a time. Victor had been blind, but the world hadn't been. That night, back at Emily's house, Liam sat with Olivia and watched the news coverage of the press conference. Every major network, every tech blog, every social media platform. James Cooper was trending worldwide. But more than that, support your support staff was trending. Companies across the country were announcing wage increases, education programs, policy changes. The movement had spread beyond one company, one story, one family. Did we do it? Olivia asked. Did we make Dad matter? Liam pulled his sister close. Dad always mattered, Butterfly. We just made sure everyone else finally saw it. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Mr. Cooper, my name is Kevin Chen. I'm 12 like you. My mom is a housekeeper. She has a degree in mathematics from Taiwan, but couldn't get it recognized here. After seeing your story, I asked her to help me with my homework. She's brilliant. I never knew. Thank you for teaching me to see my mom the way you saw your dad. Liam showed Emily the message. She read it and smiled through tears. Your father's legacy, she said, isn't the Epsilon solution. It's teaching a generation of children to see the invisible people in their own lives. That's better than any equation, Liam agreed. In his office, Victor Blackwell sat alone, watching the same news coverage, reading the same messages flooding social media, seeing his company transformed from symbol of corporate greed to beacon of change. But what mattered most to him wasn't the positive PR or the recovering stock price. It was the photo on his desk. James Cooper at 25, holding that Employee of the Month award, smiling with hope. I see you now, Victor whispered to the photograph. I'm sorry it took so long, but I finally see you. He pulled out his personal phone and began typing a company-wide message. Tomorrow, every executive at Quantum Dynamics will spend their shift working alongside support staff, not observing, working. We will clean, maintain, serve and experience what we've been ignoring for decades. Because until you've walked in someone's shoes, you haven't earned the right to determine their worth. He sent it. Then he pulled up the contact information for every support staff member in the company. 400 people. 400 apologies he owed. He began with the first name on the list. It was going to be a long night, but for the first time in 30 years, Victor Blackwell was doing work that actually mattered. 1 year later, Liam stood backstage at the James Cooper Memorial Tech Center, built on the exact spot where he and Olivia had once slept on cardboard in an abandoned building. Now, 300 students filled computer labs, the Diana Martinez Innovation Wing, the Marcus Williams Creative Space, names that mattered, people who'd been invisible, finally seen. Ready? Emily asked. She'd become their legal guardian months ago, though the paperwork only confirmed what Liam already knew. She was family. Is he here? Liam asked, adjusting his tie, covered in tiny code symbols Olivia had picked out. Front row, Emily confirmed. Victor Blackwell sat between a former janitor who now ran the scholarship program and a cafeteria worker promoted to junior developer. He'd kept every promise. Apologized to all 400 staff members. Spent 6 months mopping floors at dawn, learning what his father had lived. Liam's phone buzzed. Kevin Chen, the boy who'd written him a year ago. My mom got her credentials recognized. She starts teaching math next month. Thank you. The movement had spread. Companies raising wages, recognizing foreign degrees, promoting from within. Not everywhere, but enough. Ladies and gentlemen, Liam Cooper. The applause was deafening. Liam walked onto the stage looking at 2,000 faces and thought about his father, the man who died believing he'd failed. My dad used to say being invisible isn't about being unseen, Liam began. It's about being looked at and dismissed. He held up the photograph Margaret had given him. James at 25, Employee of the Month, smiling with hope. It took him dying for the world to see what was always there. But here's what I learned. My dad was never invisible. He was seen by everyone except the people with power to change his circumstances. Liam looked directly into the cameras broadcasting globally. If you work a job where people look through you, you matter. Your worth isn't your salary. You are not invisible. And if you have power, look again, really look, at the people who clean your offices, maintain your systems, keep your world running. Ask their names. See their brilliance. His voice softened. Solving Epsilon didn't change my life. What changed everything was people deciding to see us. Emily, who didn't look away. Victor, who admitted he was wrong. Hundreds who made my father's death mean something. Liam held up his father's USB drive. This contained unfinished code. But Dad's real legacy is teaching people to see value in unexpected places. Every wage increase, every promotion, every child who stopped believing their parents' job defined their worth. Today we open a center training 500 students yearly. Free, no degree required, just passion and potential. Proving what my father knew. Intelligence is everywhere. Opportunity is not. And it's time we fixed that. The standing ovation thundered. But Liam was looking at Victor crying, Emily beaming, Olivia holding Mr. Whiskers proudly, and at the empty chair on stage with James Cooper's name. A reminder that some people should be here but aren't. After the ceremony, Liam found a quiet corner and recorded a voice message to his father, like he'd done for a year. Hey Dad, we did it. 300 kids learning where we were homeless. Olivia's thriving, wants to be an engineer. Victor's different, really different. And last week, a janitor's daughter got into MIT on a James Cooper scholarship. She's studying quantum physics. Because of you. He watched Olivia laugh with other kids, finally having the childhood their father had died trying to provide. I miss you every day, but I understand now. Our worth isn't who sees us. It's who we help when nobody's watching. You helped so many, and now they're helping others. That's your legacy. Liam looked skyward. We made you visible, Dad. The whole world sees you now. Inside, Victor approached Olivia with a small box. Inside, a custom medal reading, James Cooper, Employee of the Decade. This should have been his years ago, Victor said quietly. I can't fix my mistakes, but I want you to remember. Your dad was extraordinary, even when people like me were too blind to see. Olivia took the medal, then hugged him. Thank you for learning to see, she whispered. That night, the James Cooper Center trended worldwide. Not because of technology or money, because of a simple truth. Everyone deserves to be seen. In offices across America, executives learned cleaning staff names. Parents asked about school janitors' dreams. People started conversations with workers they'd ignored for years. One family's tragedy sparked a revolution of recognition. And somewhere, James Cooper, the invisible man who'd changed everything, could finally rest. His children were safe. His name honored. His legacy secured. Not in code or equations, but in every person who learned that being invisible is a choice others make. And being seen starts with someone brave enough to look.